Well, let us call this, this meeting of the Town of Douglas Economic Development Commission to order. It is Wednesday, July 14th. We have everybody in attendance, and we don't have to do a roll call vote because nobody's online. So, let's start out, I would propose, with a review of last meeting's minutes.
I gotta get these here. And, I'll give one to you for informational purposes. Give me 1 second.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you. Do I have that Exhibit A from there?
Exhibit A, I don't have an exhibit. Oh, it's on the back. There's more on the back.
All right, well, I'll just attach it. I don't think it needs to say Exhibit A or anything there. Oh, no, Exhibit 1. But, okay. And that was just for the use tables that were reviewed in that meeting.
Now, one of the things that I noticed on this is if you go way down the bottom where it says planning board is updating the use tables, applicants can go directly to the planning board and if rejected, can appear, it should be appeal, and it's not to the planning board of appeals, it's just to the board of appeals, the zoning board of
Zoning board,
appeals.
ZBA, yeah.
Zoning board of appeals, okay.
Good catch, thank you.
Okay, can we take a vote to amend those minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we amend the minutes to reflect, if rejected, can appeal to the zoning board of appeals. And that would be ZBA, not PBA.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, this passes unanimously. Excellent. Next on our agenda here, we have rediscuss amending the zoning board's Appendix A, Section C, Commercial 8 restaurant from N to BA in the VR zoning district for Corey Howard, who wants to open a restaurant at 73 Manchog Street, Lot 14328, at the previous Ace Hardware Flower Shop location, and possible votes. So what is this amendment here? We're changing,
Well, we had already discussed that and voted on it. I just want to make sure we have this down and not to be confused with what Les did at the last meeting. I'll explain that one, step 2, but let's address this one, seeing that's number 1. We already voted on Corey Howard. We were going to recommend
I think I have
that
those.
Manchog Road is all village residential. And right now, restaurant, because he's planning a restaurant
Right.
in VR, and it's got N, not allowed. We were going to change that to BA for zoning board special permit. So, because we don't want to rezone it because it's spot zoning. But if we just go for special permit, just that one item, one line item, one column. And I think we already voted on that already, but before I bring that to the planning board, and of course, we're going to need something official from this commission, so I can bring it to the planning board.
When's the next planning board?
See,
Do you know when the next planning board is?
next Thursday.
Okay.
I don't think that we can exactly vote it for his specific place, where we're saying, because,
Isn't that what spot zoning is, kind of?
well, that would be spot zoning. For us to say that we're doing this just for him, that wouldn't be the right thing to
No.
say.
Oh, so we don't want
I
his
think
name
we
in it,
say
right?
We don't want his name in it. It's not,
That is
I mean,
correct.
I understand that he wants to do it, and that's fine, but this is not,
He is
As
driving
worded,
the
right?
change.
He's
but
driving-
He's
he-
not making,
he
we're not
has-
making a change for him.
made us aware of the fact that a change would be likely. Because, I mean, like in Uxbridge, they've got the Ux locale up there in an agricultural district, you know?
Yeah.
So
So if we're to vote on this, then we just need to word it, or whoever makes the motion should word it such that it doesn't have Corey's name in it.
I would say that, yeah.
Oh, yes.
The other thing to be aware of if we're approaching it that way, which I agree with, is that we would effectively be voting anywhere where it's village residential, as long
Right.
as are we saying planning board, or are we saying the zoning board?
It would be zoning.
Board for special permit, because this whole
Okay.
page is BA, which is zoning board of appeals.
Okay,
Special
so we'd be
permit.
saying, as long as the zoning board agrees, anywhere in
Right.
VR,
Right.
that they would be able to do a restaurant.
Right,
Right, and it's not allowed by right.
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 It's just the zoning board of appeals has jurisdiction to say, okay, we allow it, or no, we're not
Right.
giving you a special
Right.
permit. They still have control over it.
Right,
But seeing the fact that there was a business already there,
Mhm.
and what, Ace Hardware, I believe?
right.
And a flower
And a
shop.
Flower shop.
Yep,
Now it's just run-down property.
right, right.
Cops came and checked me out over there taking pictures of that property the other day on my one wheel. I had my one wheel pulled over and people were concerned about the lights. Anyway,
You are a sketchy-looking character.
it's true, it's true. I can't be trusted.
You had the getaway electric vehicle ready, charged up, ready to go.
Damn, batteries died.
Does anybody see any reason we would not want to do this?
So the only reason I could see there being pushback, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm pushing back, I'm just saying people in general that may live in that area, they may not want a restaurant because of, in a residential area because of the wastes and the
Well, they would
potential
show up,
smells.
they would show up at the planning board to fight.
Right.
And it has to go to town meeting for a 2/3 vote.
Mhm.
So they have two opportunities to fight this. We're just making a recommendation to get the process going.
I agree. I'm on board with it.
All right then, do we have a motion?
Okay, what exactly are you saying?
To
Let me read it so I
Here you
can
go,
make
it's
the proper
number
motion.
one.
Here we go, number one. Let's see. Okay, I make a motion that we support ZBA Appendix, ZBL Appendix A, Section C, Commercial 8, residential from N in, what is the VA? I think this is wrong, it should be the VA, but what is, this is really quite,
The Board of Appeals, right?
I think so.
to,
Did you write everything as I wrote?
Mm-hmm.
I had it clearer than that.
okay. All right, I'm going to read it. Amending the ZBA's, ZBL, so it's not
Zoning bylaws.
Zoning bylaws.
Okay,
Zoning bylaws.
Zoning bylaws, Appendix A, Section C, Commercial, 8, residential
Restaurant?
restaurant from N to BA in the VR zoning district.
Yes. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's what I read.
You nailed it right there.
Right there, in the zoning
Second.
district. Okay.
Did you get that?
I did.
Excellent.
You're
Okay.
reading right from that agenda.
Right,
So
there
I'm
you
just
go.
going to copy that.
We recommend that the planning board Support
We
this.
send it to the planning board, whether
the plan-
they,
This is our recommendation that it's done.
So Carol makes the motion, Nick seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This passes unanimously.
Okay, I'll give you that back.
Thanks.
I could draft a quick letter, send it to you guys, and you could just approve it, and I'll just send it to the planning board. One of you want to show up with me, planning board? Because I'll get on their agenda next week.
I'll go.
Okay.
If,
That way you represent the,
if it,
You can go.
unless you want to go. 'cause you
I don't
wanna
even know if I'm going to be available, so if you are,
Yeah.
do it.
yeah, I'll draft up something. It's just
Um,
be one paragraph.
I can still go too. If I can make it, I will, because we won't have a quorum, right?
Yeah, we won't,
You just need not more than two.
unless Nick wants to go.
I was typing and I don't even know where we're doing that.
I'll go to the planning board with Bob for the next meeting unless you want to,
No,
or,
fine. Yeah, go for
okay.
it.
If you can, Nick, it might be good for you to go. Have you been to a planning board meeting yet?
I have popped my head in a few virtually, but I haven't been in person at all.
If you can, it might be good to just go and see it and get your face around and
Is that
kind of.
tomorrow?
It's next Thursday.
Thursday, 23rd. What's today?
Today's Wednesday, the 14th.
14th, so it's March 15th, 22nd.
Let me check my calendar, I probably can. I don't think I usually have things on Thursday, so I probably can.
Okay, you guys just coordinate.
Yep.
Who, two?
Two only. Pick two, any two.
Lottery ticket, pick two.
No. Draw straws.
Carol, are you going to be there for any reason? Okay.
So I'll let you guys go.
Number 2, discuss the EDC's FY21 and FY22 budget process. FY21 ended June 30th. What happens at midnight? On June 30th every year. What happens at midnight 01 on June 30th every year? We're discussing that. That's what we mean. EDC budget qualifying expenses and how the budget increased from 1,000 to 5,000. This is just a discussion about the budget.
Right. Many, many years ago, the EDC carried a $1,000 budget year after year, when you were on, year after year after year. The only thing that was spent was advertising, postage.
Yeah, that was about it.
Very, very little items, few items. About 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe now, I approached the Board of Selectmen to increase that budget from 1,000 to 5,000 because that's when we were entertaining warehouses and cannabis greenhouses up on Davis Street. Carol and I put together a 185-acre complex up there. We called it Project 185. There was a lot of activity. We had assumed that we will be using consultants, and with the more activity, more expenses. Mailings, postage, advertising, it's costing us, what, $400 a whack to put something in
Yep.
the telegram now?
Oh, wow.
$1,000 budget, 2 advertisements, that budget's gone. So I got that increase to 5,000. The first year, we didn't spend anything. I think we had business cards, because you and I were in
Right.
Southbridge one day,
Yeah.
embarrassed
You
because
embarrassed
we're
'cause they
at a
were-
conference,
Yeah.
everybody's passing out business cards. Carol and I are, verbally
Yeah.
announcing who we were.
Right.
We're from a little poor town of Douglas. We can't afford business cards.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at us like, wow.
The hicks and the sticks have arrived.
Yeah. So, and that was a little embarrassing, so we got the budget increase, so everybody here has business cards now. We've kind of stepped up to the big leagues. This past year, we actually dived into MassWorks grants, and we hired a consultant, and her bill was $9,500. Excuse me. We had an engineering count for $7,500. So we're 2,000 shy, but that's what the EDC account is for. Supplies and consultants, advertising, postage. I mean, those are the 4 items that are put into this budget. Now, what happens is, you have fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th. Once you hit June 30th at midnight, if you have not spent it, it goes to the general fund.
Yeah.
We ran through that last
That's
year.
right.
We actually took a vote to expend
Right.
To give it back, right?
remainder money to give back to the general fund,
Right.
but specifically for COVID.
Right.
And that's where our remaining budget went to COVID last year.
But if we do nothing at all, we don't spend it, it goes back into the general fund. It's basically, you know what you hear, free cash? That's the free cash.
That's where it comes from.
That's for the-
That's
for the,
that's unspent
for the-
monies from the previous years.
And being on the
Finance.
Finance Committee, I mean, all of our departments work really hard. They don't just try to spend it for no reason at all. They will put it back into the free cash
Right.
every year. But we like, if you don't have this in there and voted on at the town meeting, you can't get it. You can't just go, oh, we need some money. It doesn't work that way. So you're better off having it in your budget, not spending it, but having it there if you need it, and then put it back into free cash if that's the case.
Luckily, this year, we had it available.
And lucky we had it
for our
available.
consultant.
Right, because we wouldn't have been able to use that, hire that consultant, and that worked out quite well, so.
Yeah.
Where did we come up with the $5,000 number?
I
Was there just arbitrary?
Just took a number.
Just curious if there was a particular reason for that.
Well, it's kind of hard to ask for a whole lot, because we really run a pretty tight budget.
Well, it kind of is a lot. We went from 1,000 to 5,000.
Yeah,
So it's
well,
quite a,
that's-
Well, we
because-
did, but it was only a $4,000 increase.
Right.
Now, sitting between the highway superintendent and the police chief, and they give us the money, it kind of gave them little.
Yeah,
They looked at me and said, we're gonna put you on our payroll to get our department some money.
Yeah, no,
But the Board of Selectmen realized that the economic activity the past 2 years has increased
Right.
substantially. And you have to spend money to make money.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
it's true.
The MassWorks grant, $12.5 million budget for MassWorks. We went for an $8.4 million grant, which will be one of the largest in the state. I think the largest I saw was $3 million.
It cost us $9,000 to get a consultant to go for that? That's what you said?
That's cheap.
Yeah,
That's
it
cheap.
is.
Usually they're in the 30, 40,000. And the only
Wow.
reason I got her was because I did all the work, she just edited it. She is a consultant for 4 towns, did not want to take on a 5th town,
Wow.
but she came highly recommended, so I worked out a deal with her. I'll do all the work, you just edit, make sure it's peppered with the key phrases that
Right, right.
that attracts the team reviewers.
Was this grant for the Gilboa Street stuff and whatever else?
For water, sewer, and natural gas, North Street, Gilboa,
Yeah.
and Northeast Maine, to support both warehouses, our
Yeah.
warehouse and Blackstone Valley Logistics Center. So what happens at midnight, if you don't spend it, that money is gone. You will just consider it gone in free cash, unless you have an invoice that's been outstanding prior to midnight. In this case, we had the March 31st invoice for April Anderson. We already paid her 2 installments of $3,000. We had a $3,500, the 3rd installment remaining. It was already invoiced prior to June 30th. We can spend it up until July 31st. We have 1 month to spend.
To make out the check, right.
Right, to make out that
Make
check.
out the check.
Now, come August 1st, it's gone.
Right.
You just lost that 30-day window of opportunity. So right now, we're working on FY22 budget, which is, Matt knocked us down to 3,000. I did not know that until recently.
Surprise.
But he said, well, you didn't spend the 5,000. I said, well, I realize that, but.
That's how it
is.
works.
What happens now if,
If we need consulting,
yeah,
we're gonna have to find some money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Can we pull it from the free cash like anybody else would pull it from the free
We-
cash?
Well, you
That
can't,
goes to
it has to go to a
Finance
town
Committee
meeting
and
for free
town
cash.
meeting.
You can't just go to Jeannie and say, "Hey, Jeannie, you don't have free cash, give me a check."
Yeah.
It don't work that way.
What we might do is work on there will be MassWorks grant next year. Guaranteed, we'll be applying for MassWorks grant. If there is another $10,000 bill, I don't know if Matt had that 7,500 back in that account.
Yeah.
I'll get a check on that.
Yeah,
We have, if I remember right, transferred our budget to another board before when they needed the money. Do I
Right.
remember that correctly?
That was covert, that was the covert.
That was the COVID one.
COVID
So
relief.
if we were to run into that situation, we could talk to FinCom or some other board that may have additional budget and get that money from them? Does it work the same
That was
way?
at June 30th.
yeah,
That was at the end of the year.
Right, yeah.
You just can't transfer funds from
Yeah.
one department to another.
no, you can't without town meeting.
Now, FinCom did a few transfers this last month, I believe, but they were small.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they were transfers, we paid some bills.
I mean, that's out of my
Yep.
jurisdiction.
They weren't, I don't
I
think they
can't
were grant,
answer
they weren't
that.
Just
transfers.
curious as to what happens if we need the money and there's no money left in the account. Where do we get the money? We're not going to get the consultant. We're
And
probably
there
going to
is
find the
one
money.
invoice in the box, don't let me.
We
forget
signed
that.
it, I think.
yeah.
Nick has it.
You signed it?
Sorry, Sarah.
It's all signed in the box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't sign it. Is it signed up enough?
It's, yeah, Luke, myself, and Scott.
Okay.
We trust you.
I know I went in to sign that other one.
Yeah, that was invoiced again before June 30th.
I can grab it if you want to take a look, though.
What's that?
I can grab it if you want to take a look.
No, it's
We can
okay.
get it
As long as
out,
it's
'cause I
got,
can
as long
get
as
you-
it's got the signatures it needed, that's all that counts.
Is there anything operational that the EDC needs to do to facilitate moving this budget around? Do we need to do anything here?
As far as
The FY22 budget?
for spending it,
for getting it, making sure we keep it? How do we, you increased it from 1,000 to 5,000.
Right now, it's
How'd you do that?
decreased to 3,000.
How'd you do that, though?
Matt did that when he did the budgets.
You just went and asked him for it?
No.
He just did
He
it?
did, every department took, I think, a cut this year
Yeah.
because of COVID.
Oh, I'm not talking about the cut, the $3,000 cut. I'm talking about when you got it increased from $1,000 to $5,000. How'd you do that procedurally?
I just went to the Board of Selectmen when they were going over the budget.
Right time, right place.
And, you know, it's a
And then it went to the
balancing.
Finance
Balancing,
Committee.
it goes to the Finance Committee, and it's a balancing game, and you try to get, you know, wherever you can get, you know, maybe this one here is gonna take a little less, this one will get a little more, and it's just a big balancing thing. And then it gets voted on at the annual town meeting.
Right, the annual town meeting in March,
And that's when you make.
that's where the budget is presented.
So the only department that can deficit spend is the highway department, because of snow removal. Because we never know what it's gonna take to plow snow. So we have a certain budget for snow. It always runs over, except for 1 year. I think 1 year in the 200 years of the town, it didn't go over. That was 2 years ago. Other than that, it always goes over, and we definitely, but that's the only department we can deficit spend on.
Yeah, and that's for public safety.
Right. But I don't even think we can deficit spend in the police department, and that's public safety. Or the fire department. I don't think we can deficit spend on them either. So I don't know what we do if we have a really big fire, I have no idea.
Well, we
Calling other
have-
towns.
We have the fire trucks
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I think snow removal is a lot of independent people. Where
Well-
we have a snowstorm, a lot of independent people pay extra money,
Right.
extra salt.
Right.
Fire department, if there's 10 fires a week or one fire,
Yeah,
it still costs us the same.
well, yeah, I
Right,
mean, I
because we
think
have
they
a
bring in
full-time-
more people on the rigs, but they might have to work more overtime and stuff like that.
Did anybody else's budget get cut, or just ours?
I think everybody's got trimmed a little bit.
Yeah, I think there was, I know the school committee was
Yeah.
yelling,
Yeah.
everybody was yelling.
Yeah, everybody was crying that they got cut a little bit, but what can you do?
And that kind of put it in line to what we would spend.
Yep, because he knows what's going on, right? So that makes sense.
Not to say that next year we can go for the 5,000. If we find out we're gonna not deficit, I don't want to use that word deficit spend, but if we spend it all, we might want to go for more next year.
Yeah, but we don't want to just hold it away from somebody else either if we don't anticipate that we're actually going to use it. We don't want to just sit on it, just to sit on it, I don't think.
I think if we're spending like $10,000 a year to pursue grants and we get an enormous return on investment, like
Oh,
yeah, right.
million dollars, I think there's no trouble selling a $10,000 budget.
That's how I sold the 5,000.
Right.
Yep, yep.
We're working on a 1 million square foot warehouse now in a different spot.
Is there any further discussion on this point? All right, next up, explain consultant April Anderson's invoice and recent EDC voucher. That we kind
And I
of did,
think we
right?
just did that.
We did.
Yeah.
I think we just did. Any questions? I know, Nick, you had some questions on that, but I think it was all resolved. Once I
think it
passed the
was,
invoice
yeah,
to
yeah.
you, you kind of saw that.
Yep.
I know the example you gave in the email was not the case here.
No, totally not.
There
I was just trying to understand what's going
Too many
on.
people involved in this invoice.
Okay, this looks like the big one. Possibly rescinding previous EDC vote on amending the zoning bylaw Appendix A, special permit granting authority from the zoning board to the planning board as presented by a guest at a previous meeting.
Okay, if you remember at the last meeting,
Right.
we had a guest.
Right, right.
That person
Mhm.
recommended changing BA to planning board, citing a
Usage table update.
Massachusetts general law change in 2012.
Right,
We ran that through council after you guys voted.
Yeah.
And I know there was some hesitation on why are we doing this. The facts then seemed like, well, we passed that zoning bylaw change at the town meeting in 2012, but never updated the tables.
right.
That kind of made sense. But I always had a question, why did it take 9 years? of neglect on the tables.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
So,
You know?
but at the time, it sounded
Yeah.
good. Once we ran it by town council, it didn't pass the sniff test. They
Okay.
said, no, everything that was done in 2012 was done. There was no further work. So that kind of rescinds the vote you guys took.
Yep.
Um,
I have,
And if there's going to be a change in these tables, I made the recommendation that it comes out of a committee,
I agree.
which will have 2 planning board members, 2 zoning board members, maybe 1 EDC member, Matt, myself, maybe the new town planner we just hired, have a committee to vote on this.
Who
So
creates
there's-
that committee?
For transparency.
Is it the selectmen that would put together that committee?
It would be an ad hoc committee.
Yeah, it kind of depends. It depends, some committees, some are appointed by the moderator, but I don't, it depends what type of committee it is too. And I think this is just a working committee, so I don't think it's,
This is in the discussion stage, so
How would-
town council obviously will be involved in this to make sure this is all legal, above board, transparent.
Yeah,
well, you do realize that 10 people can just sign a petition and go in and do this without any of this.
Yeah,
10 people, you get, 10 or 20, I forget, so if 10 people sit around and they say, okay, we'd like to change the zoning, and they write this thing, and they bring it up, and they can bring it to the town meeting, and it can be done without anybody doing anything, and then people will obviously vote on it whether or not they want to do it.
right. It's the final straw is
It's town meeting, right?
2/3 vote
Right.
acceptance.
just out of curiosity, how would the open meeting law come into play in a scenario like that, where we have a bunch of board members sitting together at a table? Would that have to be a televised meeting? Would that be an off-air kind of ad hoc thing?
That's a good question. That's a good question. First off, as long as you don't have a quorum from any of those,
Right. It
Boards.
doesn't have to be
Boards.
posted, there's no 48-hour notice.
right?
Yeah, but wouldn't a committee like that have its own quorum?
It's a good question.
No.
I'm not sure
I think so.
what would constitute a committee. And
Yeah,
then
I'm
would they
really
be a
not sure.
committee?
I'm not sure. I know that they have done in the past, they did like,
And I'm using the word committee, it might be
they call
Yeah,
it.
breakout group or whatever it is.
Working,
I'm
a
just,
working group.
how does it work with the open meeting laws? Just my
Yeah,
own
that I don't know.
question.
That's a question for town council.
Yep.
So to add a little flavor to that, I think was he sitting on the planning board? So he was basically changing everything from Board of Appeals to the planning board.
Right.
Basically is what he was trying to do.
Right, it was supposed to be a massive whitewash.
Which frankly, I don't think that's a bad idea. Because then you can appeal to the ZBA.
Right.
If you go
That
to
is
the
an-
ZBA, then what do you have to do? You have to go to court. I don't know, I think it sounds like a pretty good idea to me, but,
So I
No,
looked at
it
some
does.
neighboring towns, and it's dependent on what the actual line is in some neighboring towns.
Right.
I didn't look at everything.
right.
But in some zones, for some things, it's the planning board, in in the same zone, for another thing, it might be the zoning board,
Right.
or
And you-
planning board, vice versa.
And you know what? Everybody thinks that there's real geniuses out there writing all these things from these other towns. Guess what? They're no smarter than we are. They're just lay people, and they get together, and they make as much of a screw-up as we do.
Sure. They all
And then we
start-
follow, oh, that looks good, we'll take theirs.
And they all started from the same list 40 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is what morphed into the Douglas one. You look at
Right.
the other, it morphed into theirs.
Right,
Totally different.
yeah. So it's,
I mean, we're looking at, and I give you a good example, 55 housing. There's nothing in here on 55 plus
over
housing.
55, yeah.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. You go to Uxbridge, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because we've got a subdivision going in on South Street. They want to do 55 housing. We don't know how to address it.
Over 55, right.
We had a tech review meeting on it, we're scratching our head. How do we address this? It's not in here.
Yep.
If it's not in here, it's not
We
allowed.
haven't been approved, well, it's a good question, is it not allowed? I guess if somebody wanted to restrict their properties to over 55, it's the only thing you can restrict. You can't, other than that, you can't, federal law, you
Discriminate.
can't discriminate age and everything. I think that's the only thing you can. And I don't know if we actually have to have a zoning bylaw to allow it or not. That's a good question.
Well, I looked at Uxbridge, and Uxbridge has what do they call it, RDOT, age-related development what the O was, but it's district. And it's called RDOT for short.
Right.
And they put it in residential areas,
Right,
which was prohibited,
right. Well,
but they made an overlay.
yeah. Well, what it-
Overlay district.
Yeah, part of the reason that towns like to have it is usually you'll have a higher density, okay? Where instead of having to build on a 2-acre lot, they let you build on, so you're gonna have more of them in there. But they usually, the thing coming behind it is like, they're all paying taxes, and they're really not taking many services, so it's a pretty good thing to have.
Yeah,
And-
usually the trade-off is
Yeah.
open space around
Right,
it.
it
So they
gets
do a
open
higher
space.
density. The overall
Right.
lot is 2 acres, but they're on 1-acre
Right,
lots.
and they're not having children,
Right.
so you don't have to educate the kids in the school system.
Doesn't impact the school
Doesn't,
system.
of course, we've got, in the last 10 years, we've lost 33% of our students.
Maybe we should improve our schools.
Well, no, no, it's not the schools,
No, it never is.
no, because it's everywhere. We need to get people off their telephone and have them do other things. Because the birth rate is down.
Got it.
I like the other thing.
You know. Okay, so all we had done previously was to vote on a recommendation, right? So this potential vote would be just to rescind that recommendation. Do we have a motion here, or is there any further discussion?
I don't have any further.
I don't know if I want to, personally, rescind it, because I think it's a good idea to get it over to the planning board instead of the ZBA. But I don't know that we're the group that should be saying it, that's all.
So I like Bob's idea of putting it in a committee, so we know that the planning board and the ZBA are both like hashing it out,
Right.
and they agree on it. And once they come up with something that, they've worked on together, I would feel more comfortable recommending that.
And some of these items are zoning issues,
Yeah,
some are planning issues.
Yeah.
And I think you're not going to whitewash the whole thing to PD. I think some should stay zoning board. You lose your appeal process
Right.
in town.
right, that's the,
That's the downside of
yeah.
it.
I know at one point, everything was with the ZBA,
Right.
and then we moved it to the planning board. Because the planning board is overwhelmed, I think, but,
And one-stop shopping does make sense.
Makes it
You're
easier.
going to the planning board for site plan review anyways.
I know it.
You might as well go to them for the special permit. Why
Right.
go to two different
I know it.
boards?
Just kind of move it
And
along.
you have the appeal process available to you in town.
Right,
But either way, it does seem like it should be up to the planning board what their process is and what their inputs and outputs are, right? So it's not really, like people have said already, it's not really on us to make this recommendation. So should we just rescind the recommendation entirely and just say,
I mean, it's a good recommendation, and I think it should come out of a committee. So everybody is on board with this.
I agree. It should be a mix of everybody looking at that table.
Because we're looking at one input, another board member might look at a different
Yeah.
input, something I didn't think of.
Yep.
The more input you have, the better decision you can make. I think we're limited on what we can suggest. We can take care of a restaurant, for a special permit. I mean, that's an easy one. You go through 4 pages of use regulations, that's a big one.
that's not what this commission is for? Like, that's not the purpose of this
Right.
commission,
We're
so.
economic development, your economic development is changing the use table as economic development.
Well,
I think
It's questionable.
In some ways, I
In
think it
some
can
ways,
be.
yes.
Yeah, but anything you can do to streamline the process,
Yeah.
it makes a big difference. When someone's deciding which town they're gonna build in, okay, if I go to Douglas, it's gonna take me a year and a half, I gotta go this board, this board, this board, this. I go to Uxbridge and I'm gonna get it through in 3 months, I'm going to Uxbridge,
Yep.
I've heard that more than once in the last few years.
But the EDC will have input on the committee.
Yeah. Well, we don't know how they're setting up the committee. How they setting up the committee? Maybe we should just say that we feel that maybe a committee should study it, a committee should be formed to study it or something.
I love that.
Could we make a recommendation to the selectmen to commission a group?
Yeah.
Maybe instead of a recommendation to the zoning board, we make that to the selectmen.
I would support.
Yeah, I think so. Study updating the zoning bylaws.
There's a lot more to it than just appendix A. This whole thing needs addressing.
Would anybody make a motion to make a recommendation to the selectmen that a board, subcommittee, or other group be created
To study
to study
changes in zoning.
the zoning use tables?
Appendix A.
Appendix-
I was gonna
Only
let you make
Appendix
it, 'cause I-
A, or all of them?
It's only appendix B you don't want to.
Make a motion to send, well, not to send, to have the Board of Selectmen appoint a committee to look at the usage table, to update it, right?
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Second?
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I
So-
would include the zoning bylaws instead of just appendix A.
Yeah,
Because there's
well,
other stuff in there.
there is.
Well, do you have a,
Including the zoning bylaws.
Yeah.
we take a revote on that one? All,
Appendix A is part of the zoning bylaws, so just say zoning bylaws,
So we're
Okay.
saying study changes in the zoning bylaws.
Bylaws.
Correct.
including appendix A.
okay, so we have a mo,
Well, that was the gist of that,
Okay.
this discussion.
Yeah, okay.
so we have a motion. Does anybody second the revision?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. All right. Next up on our list of goodies, we have a big bullet list of things from our friend Nick.
No, we can just do one. I wanted to figure out how we get SEPA, and I wasn't really sure what the process was. So I did, let me just finish typing this.
Mhm. Excellent. Have you guys seen this draft mission statement?
No.
Yeah, so I sent, thank you. So I sent out an email, you said you didn't, I do have one. You got one?
Okay.
You have
Is
one?
it this one?
It's that one.
That
Yeah, so let me give you a little background. So the motivation is that I found it's helpful to flesh things out and get some specificity when dealing with a big topic. So we're able to break it down into smaller, more manageable pieces. Since economic development's a very broad term, it can seem kind of overwhelming to know where to start, especially as a newcomer to the group. And I'm certainly still learning. So what I did was I just put down on paper what I've gathered from, the meetings that I've attended, historical meetings that I've watched, discussions we've had, some of the great things that we've been doing, like finding micro enterprise grants for local businesses during COVID, Bob working on the MassWorks grant application, and I researched some information on what other EDCs are doing across the country. So if we have something like this already, that's awesome. This is, in no way meant to override or supersede any of that. I know we're already doing some of these things, but a lot of it's kind of like tribal knowledge at this point, which makes it kind of hard as a newcomer. And so since we're a small group, and you're leaving, which makes us smaller, I hope at some point more people are going to join. So having clarity on what we're able to do, what our mission is, I think would be helpful in not just encouraging people to join, but also to help people feel like they're part of the group.
Yeah, what's expected of them.
Right. Yep.
I mean, that is a mission statement, so
Yeah.
what are we here for? What are we expected to do?
Right. It'd also allow them to, just to your point, Bob, contribute more quickly and with less effort, because we don't have to scramble around and figure out what should I be doing. And I think that's important, considering, we all have a lot on our plates already. We're all unpaid volunteers doing this in service to the town. And I know I would have been grateful for something like this when I first joined. So I want to be clear on my intentions, so there's no misunderstanding. in no way am I meaning to assign work to anybody. It's really meant to be just a reference. So what I was thinking when I wrote this is that it's easier to contribute to something that already has a little momentum behind it. Staring at a blank page can be daunting. And so with this document, I'm trying to make it easier for all of us to get on the same page, what we're looking to accomplish. It's a starting point. And I'd like, if everyone, would contribute, strike out, add, whatever you feel is right if you want. It's meant to be a collaborative effort. And when we all feel like it's something that represents what we do and what we want to go do, I think it could be helpful for us and for the town. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The one thing I see right, I like this format. The first statement should be, what is the EDC? The Economic Development Commission is a 5-member volunteer group serving the town of Douglas.
Appointed by the Board of Selectmen at the pleasure of the Board of Selectmen.
Right, appointed by the
So-
Board of
And
Selectmen.
serving
That should be,
at the pleasure, right? Is that what it is? Or can they throw us out anytime they want? I don't know.
I think we serve at the pleasure of the Selectmen.
I don't know. I mean, we just say we appointed by them. We're not quite sure if they can throw us out if we don't like us.
and Nick, I was making a mission statement for the pre-application tech review team, and my first statement is, the pre-application tech review team consists of town employees providing non-binding suggestive advice and guidance to an applicant for a potential project prior to an actual application being filed before the board. So the first statement is, okay, who are you?
Yep.
So 5-member board appointed by the volunteer, appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen. So I also looked at some other,
Serving, what, 3-year terms?
Yeah, it's a
it is a 3-year
Yeah,
term.
3-year terms.
I also looked at some of the neighboring towns' mission statements, and they're very, very simple. It's one sentence. The mission of the Economic Development Commission is to promote sustainable economic development and to assist the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board in the implementation of the town's economic goals and objectives. Those economic goals and objectives are outlined in the master plan, right?
We do have a master plan.
Which we do have, but it's very old. Because I looked at it today, and it's from 1999.
That's what we were talking about, right?
Yeah, but that is, for all intents and purposes,
That long ago.
the driving document of this board is the master plan.
And you can make recommendations to change it or amend it.
And it might be time to do that
Now,
if
one
it
thing
hasn't been
is not
updated since
changed.
1999.
You said you worked on it?
Yeah, I did.
You hit the nail on the head when all industrial, commercial activity will be done on the east end of the town, which is where all our commercial and industrial zone land is along 146 corridor. There's talk about making that an industrial overlay district.
Right.
Uxbridge has it, Sutton has it, we don't. Do we need it?
Yeah. I don't know. We already got it zoned industrial, right?
Yeah, it's already
So
zoned.
what do we
I
have
mean,
to
it would-
overlay it for?
Again, maybe that's a good thing for the committee.
Makes a lot of sense to me to have that committee, even if it was just one representative from each board, like,
Well, we have an economic activity we haven't seen in 20 years.
I'm leaving. That's on,
That's what I heard.
I'm leaving. We're gonna move away, and I'm not gonna be able to do this anymore, so we're gonna have to,
You can do it remote.
yeah,
There you
I can
go.
dial in. I might not have a vested interest in the success of the town at that point, though I have a lot of friends and family that continue to live here, so I do. But that's gonna leave an opening. Somebody's gonna have to take that if we can't get somebody from another board or the general public to step up and take a seat. I'm
Oh, I
not
have
sure.
2 people that are interested,
There we go.
so
So you've
I
got,
have to work on it a little bit, but hopefully I'll get them in.
so if you can get them in, do you think you can do it by next month?
I'll try.
They've got to, I think, they have to be appointed by the selectmen, right?
Yes.
They do, and they have to
And
have
fill
a
out an
swear in and
application.
everything.
Yeah.
Fill out an application.
But I think that's a pretty quick process.
Yeah, the application,
I think the application probably 15, 20 minutes. It's like a
I would say
one-page.
give it a half an hour.
Yeah.
And we may be able to expedite that, right? If we ask nicely to everybody, can we get somebody on this board officially within a month? Because if we're going to have a restructuring, it would make sense to have the seats
Now,
full.
when do you think you were going to be leaving?
Maybe the beginning of September, end of August.
Your house is on the market?
It will be next week.
Yeah.
That's big.
So you could probably make the August meeting.
I plan
Yeah, you
to.
probably will.
I plan to, unless they're like,
Unless you got somebody that's got the cash to just plunk it down, it takes a while to go through the banks.
you got the cash, right? You want to buy a house?
No. I have one, I'm staying where I am.
That's a nice one.
Well, I don't know about that. Part of the micro on the cabinet's going, I got it taped down with some tape. I was just talking to a friend of mine. She said, Helen, your age, why care?
Excellent. Do we have any other business to address? Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? Now is a good chance to do that.
I'm fine with just that
Okay.
one item, so.
All right, then would anybody like to make a motion to end this meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. This meeting has ended at 8 PM.